Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of Chorus Place. I'm so glad you've chosen to join me for today's conversation. In today's episode, I have a super special treat to share with all of you. I'll be talking with my grandparents about their perspectives on the trip I took to visit them in Montana that I mentioned in the last two episodes. As always, if you like what you hear, please leave a review and/or comments, follow my podcast, and tell your friends. Also, please follow the podcast page I've made on Facebook. If you'd like to contact me via email instead of Facebook, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org. If you're new here, welcome. I'm your host, Cora, and I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. Before I get into today's topic, I want to share today's verse, which is from Psalm 28:7 in the English Standard Version. It says, "The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts, and I am helped. My heart exults, and with my song I give thanks to him." This verse is a very special verse to me, and it is one of my favorites. I think it means that when we are in the Lord, he will be our strength and our shield. Our hearts can trust him, exalt in him, and he will help us. It's special to me because one time my grandma texted me the reference and said that she thought of me when she read the verse. Now, sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy today's episode. I want to give a quick disclaimer before we get into the interview. Because this is an interview, the episode may be slightly longer than previous episodes. Now, let's get on to the interview. Today, I have a very special surprise to share with all of you. I get the incredible honor and privilege of interviewing two people who are very, very special to me. I'm going to be interviewing my absolutely wonderful grandparents about their perspectives on the trip I took to visit them in Montana in June of 2021. Super excited that we get to do this together, so that'll be fun.
We agree. We always enjoy talking to you.
First question is, how did you feel when I finally said yes to visiting Montana?
Well, I was really excited, and I'm sure I can speak for Grandpa, but I'll let him address that. I was just really thrilled that you wanted to spend time with us and that we could share our Montana life with you.
And I was very pleased that you went through the decision-making process and came to the conclusion that you're willing to take that big step, and very confident that we were gonna have a great time having you visit us.
It was definitely not an easy decision, but I'm glad I made it.
Well, we are too, because that was a very special time in all of our lives.
What thoughts or emotions were going through your mind during that trip?
That's really hard to answer because there were so many.
Mm-hmm.
I was thrilled with anticipation because you were going to be coming and we were going to get to spend a lot of time, more than just snatches of when we usually get to visit.
Yeah.
And then there was the emotion of sadness and disappointment when we realized that you were sick. And then, of course, sadness, when you were going home again. But then on the other hand, filled with fulfillment, knowing that we had had a really fun time together. So lots of different emotions throughout the week, but really good memories.
And I think from my standpoint, certainly I had thoughts of this being a life-changing experience for you to decision, and knowing then that I thought, well, I would imagine that based on the time we have, that making a decision to come and visit us a second time would be much easier, and very happy that you decided to come and visit us. And I think that we wanted to make sure we gave you some great memories to recall your trip from.
Definitely. When or how did you first realize I was sick and then feeling better after being sick?
Well, I think from my standpoint, I felt, we could tell you were getting some symptoms. We were hoping it wasn't going to turn anything serious, but we just felt, well, we need to figure out how do we help you to get over your sickness as quickly as possible, making sure that you're getting the right nutrition and getting the rest that you need to help you to get over this sickness as quick as possible.
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly when it was that I realized you were getting sick, but I just had this feeling, and I don't know if you were just a little more quiet than usual or a little more serious, or, I didn't know if you were coming down with something or if you were just really tired. I was hoping that you weren't just so homesick that you wanted to turn around and fly home. oh, I better ask her if you're feeling okay.
Mhm.
And between the two of being homesick and wanting to go home and being sick, I'm glad that you were sick so that we didn't have
Mhm.
to send you right back home, and we had that opportunity to take care of you when you were sick.
Mhm. And that was definitely a big blessing in my life, for sure. Definitely life-changing, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
What helped you realize that I was feeling better?
I think you certainly got a little more energetic, and
Mhm.
you could tell you were just not feeling as tired. So I think that you had
Mhm.
more energy.
Yeah, I would agree. Just gradually each day, you just seem to be, after those first couple days, you just seem to be getting a little more perkier and energetic. But boy, we
What was
sure threw everything at you that we possibly could. I don't even remember
Mhm.
all the remedies we tried, because it's like, boy, we wanted to get you as healthy as possible, as quick
Mhm.
as possible. And it's like, well, let's try this and this and this and this. And
Mhm.
it worked.
Yes, definitely. And that's something that I'm very grateful for. What was going through your minds on the way to and upon arriving at the airport that Sunday for my return back home to Illinois?
Well, that was sadness of knowing
Mhm.
we're going to be going back home, and we weren't really sure when we were going to get to see you again.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, we were just really happy that you had decided to spend the time with us, and we felt
Mhm.
content knowing that we had just a really good time together. But
Mhm.
yes, definitely that sadness, that knowing that we didn't know when we'd be seeing you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think from my standpoint, it just seemed like, wow, went by so fast,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
seemed like you just got here, and now we're having to take you to send you on your way home. And so
Mhm.
yeah, it was sad from that standpoint that it was over so quickly. But yet there was some satisfaction in just knowing that all of us had a great time together, and
Mhm.
a very rewarding time to be able to spend that with you.
Mhm. What was your favorite memory, experience, sight, or activity of that trip?
Whoa, that's a pretty full question there. It's pretty hard to have a favorite because, first of all, your presence and spending time with you was the best part. Your laughter and the happiness that you had when you were here and that you showed, those were all really great memories.
Yeah, and I think that there's two things that come to mind right away. One is when we took you to Norm's, and
Mhm.
that that was I think you had a corn dog there, and you thought that was the best
Mhm.
corn dog you'd ever had in your life. And so just to experience the atmosphere there and see you enjoy a meal like that. The
Mhm.
other one that comes to mind is the big hurdle that you made with Cleo, our dog,
Mhm.
and you got to a point where you actually were able to give her a treat yourself, and
Mhm.
overcame that big fear of her. So I thought those are
Mhm.
two pretty special memories in my mind.
All right, I'll get a little bit more specific then. I thought it was really cool when we were flying up here to Montana.
Mhm.
The anticipation of how much fun we were going to have, and your first time of really enjoying God's creation from
Mhm.
up above and looking down. And we were glad that you had a window seat and some pretty
Mhm.
good visibility. Then just going on the walks that we got to go on.
Mhm.
I think one of the really fun times was when you were driving the side by side,
Mhm.
and you were just and having so much fun.
Mhm.
I was so afraid you were going to drive off the road and land in the creek, and it's like, oh no, what's happening here? But it really
Mhm.
made for a good memory. And then
Mhm.
also on the other side, the more quiet times, like enjoying the beautiful sunsets together.
Mhm.
And then yeah, we played Montanaopoly, and we got
Mhm.
your cousins and had some other special times with them. And then that drive we made to Kootenai Falls, and how
Mhm.
we enjoyed hiking and the swinging bridge, and
Mhm.
that was pretty exciting. And then we
Mhm.
drove to Idaho, and I think another favorite was when we went kayaking, because I think that was your first time kayaking.
Mm-hmm.
So those were a lot of fun memories for us.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
can definitely agree on that.
yeah, I didn't have a favorite memory other than I had a favorite week.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd have to agree, to be honest. I would definitely have to agree on that one. What was something new for me, or watching me conquer fear, that brought you joy by watching me experience it and enjoy it?
I think I already said the side by side. That
Yeah.
was
Mm-hmm.
and Grandpa said Cleo, because you were not really a fan of dogs, but
Mm-hmm.
by the end you seemed to be pretty comfortable with Cleo.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty exciting.
And I think even your reaction to, the just God's creation out here, being able to see the mountains and all the trees and just experience this area and what it has to offer as far as
Mm-hmm.
beautiful scenery and things.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Well, one thing that we do want to express though is how special it was for us that you actually wanted to come and spend that much time with us,
Mm-hmm.
because we love you so much, and we there's just nothing like the love for between parents and children, and then especially grandchildren. It's a
Mm-hmm.
different, parents love their children and they love their grandchildren in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just really special that there's a special bond there between us, and we got to spend that.
Mm-hmm. I definitely feel like that changed our relationship for the absolute better. Because I feel like we were able to get a lot closer then.
Yeah, I think that happens when you spend time together.
Mm-hmm. Quality time together is very important.
Yep, that's for sure.
Definitely super important.
Yeah, the other memory I was just thinking about, my recollection is when we brought you out here, I think we flew first class in that flight.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so
I'd
that was
forgotten
kind of
about
a
that.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
unexpected surprise that we
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed. It kind of can spoil you though when you get to fly first class on a flight that long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun surprise.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Definitely.
I think in the beginning of the week, we also saw that beautiful rainbow
Mm-hmm.
over
Yeah.
the park. And I think that was kind of God smiling and giving us the indication that it was just going to be a real blessed week. And it was.
Mm-hmm. And I also enjoyed watching all the sunsets. Those were really cool too.
And were you surprised at how late it got dark here?
Yes, I was very surprised.
Because I think it was still light at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Seemed like it was about 10:30 sometimes before it was really dark.
I don't think we ever saw any stars when I was out there. 'Cause it didn't get dark early enough.
Yeah, because oftentimes in summertime, like at the end of June, beginning of July, we don't see stars until about midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the winter time is the best time to see the stars because they come up
Mm.
and see the
Yeah.
Milky Way that much more clearly.
Mm-hmm. Because it gets darker earlier in the winter.
Mhm.
I'm definitely very glad we got to do this for sure.
So for your next trip out here, what are you looking forward to?
Ooh, definitely hanging out, of course. Seeing all the family. What else? Definitely walks.
Maybe the next time you can, we'll be able to go to Glacier National Park, because
Yeah.
and I know when you got sick, that kind of changed some of those plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful place to go.
Mm-hmm.
As far as those that will listen to this podcast, is there anything that you would share with them as far as either your decision-making process or something that was the most meaningful to you as far as this trip goes?
Ooh. As far as most meaningful, I think maybe having you guys to help me recover so quickly when I was sick. That was definitely very impactful, but in the best way possible. As far as other things I hope people will glean out of it is that choosing faith over fear is good, and it can lead to amazing things, like all the amazing blessings we had on the trip. Yeah, I feel like those are the two main things in my head right now. Now, Here is my perspective. Let's go to the very beginning. I'll start from the day I left my house, but not Illinois yet, on that trip. On that day, I mostly got ready to go. I left my house the night before I left Illinois, so then it would be easier to get to the airport the next day when we left Illinois. My grandparents came over to my family's house, and we had pizza and a chocolate peanut butter pie, because it was the day after my birthday. It was so yummy. After we had pie, my grandparents and I went to their hotel to get to bed, so we could get up to go to the airport on time for our flight the next day. Also, really quick side note, I didn't know it until they arrived at my house, but my grandma actually came with my grandpa. When I saw that my grandma had come with my grandpa, I was really blown away, and it made me feel so very happy because I wasn't expecting to see her until landing in Montana. That was one of the best surprises of my life. Every time I relive that in my mind, I feel very excited and happy on the inside. The next morning, we had breakfast, dropped my grandpa's car off at one of the plants of the company where he works at, as of the recording of this episode, when he comes to Illinois. Went to the airport, got checked in / through security, sat, boarded the plane, and off we went. While on the plane, we talked, ate food, looked out the window, and listened to music or read. Once we landed in Montana and got off the plane, one of my aunts and one of my cousins picked us up from the airport. Once we got to my grandparents' house, we unpacked, ran an errand, and that evening we saw a rainbow. The next day, which was a Sunday, we went to church, had brunch, I watched the service from my church, played games with my grandpa, had dinner, went for a short hike, had root beer floats, had tea, and we watched a great show based on the life of Jesus called The Chosen. That Monday, we went for a walk. I drove there side by side, which is like an oversized golf cart, and I played outside with my cousin. That Tuesday, I didn't feel good, so I laid on the couch and rested most of the day. I was sick with a cold. Thankfully, I felt a lot better Wednesday. Still not great, but a lot better. We went and got lunch and ice cream at a delicious local restaurant, walked in other stores, and ran another errand. Thursday, we ran errands and had the cousins, aunts, and uncles that live out there over for dinner. On Friday, my grandparents, one of my cousins, and I went to waterfalls and a swinging bridge, and then my other 2 cousins came over for dinner and a sleepover. That was fun. Saturday, we went to the farmer's market and church. Sunday, we went to church again, had a quick lunch, went kayaking, said goodbye to my aunt, uncle, and cousin, and then my grandma dropped my grandpa and I off at the airport. Saying goodbye to my grandma after that week was so hard. I tried to not get too emotional, and I succeeded for the most part, but it was still hard to not get emotional. After we got in that evening and picked up my grandpa's car, we went to my grandpa's hotel while we waited for my family to come get me. Once I made it back to my house that night, I unpacked and then went to bed. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please follow, leave a comment and/or review of my podcast if you haven't already, and please follow my podcast page on Facebook so you never miss an update. If you have any verses you'd like me to read on a future episode, or if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, you can email me at corachin@mailbox.org, send me a message on my podcast page on Facebook, or a voice message through the link in the show notes, and I will get back to you when I can. Hope you tune in next week for the 11th episode.